Anyone has any questions on the last session? All of you are good?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
You're able to understand what are you trying to learn, where it is filling the gap in the industry, in organization, why we need to use any middleware tool, how we can use the middleware tool, what are the different ways we can integrate the systems, and what are the different middleware tools available in the market, right? Is everyone good? Anyone summarize what is an integration? Anyone?
It is in a software which fulfills the communication between multiple devices with help of software.
Okay. Anyone else? Shrikant, Soumya, Sai, Sri Sai, Kiran, Vallita. Anyone else? What is an integration? Why? What is an integration? Integration is connecting two or more systems. Why we will connect? What's the advantage of connecting two or more systems? Right? Why? To enable the data transfer. To enable the data transfer between two or more applications, we will use the integration tools. Right? So we have discussed about what is integration, types of integration before middleware tool, drawbacks, and once middleware is introduced, how the integrations looks like, and what is middleware, and different ways. So these are the different ways systems can use to exchange the data and popular middleware tools available in the market. And we discussed about the Mulesoft and then advantages and prerequisites to learn the Mulesoft. Right? So, and hardware prerequisite to run the Mulesoft in the laptop. So that is what we have discussed. Now in today's session, we will try to start working with the first example. And in order to run the first example, what is the tool we can use that we will discuss. So generally, if I'm trying to write some text, what is the software I am using? I'm writing some text here. So what is the software I am using? What is the software I'm using?
Notepad.
Notepad or Notepad plus plus I'm using. So in the same way, if you are trying to learn C, CPP, Java, what tool you will use? We will use something called terminology. We will use editor. Might be the editor might be Turbo C, Turbo C++. You all remember the blue color screen. These are all the editors, right? So in Java, we will write the Java in any editor, and then any editor like Notepad. After writing the Java, generally what we will write in any programming language, we will write any programming language in N. We will use English like language. This is called high level language. And then what computer understands is machine level language. Computer understand instructions only in ones and zeros. So who will convert this high level English language to the machine level language? We have something called compilers. So what is the job of the compilers? It will job of the compiler is to convert your high level language into low level language. And then this process is called compiling. So whenever you write a Java class, what you have to do, you have to compile them. So generally they will provide a command to compile. If you all know, that command is javac. If you don't know, that's fine. There will be some X command will be there. The same way, once you did compilation, you have to execute the program. Suppose executing the program means that suppose if you want to do a phone call in your phone needs to be switched on and it is in running mode. If your phone is switched off, you can't do a phone call or you can't receive a phone call. In the same way, so in your phone there is a software which is running. In the same way, if you want to run an application, you have to, or if you want to perform some operation, you have to run the application. So this process is called running. So for running also, you need a command. Command is in Java command or run command. In example, I am taking for compiling one command will be there, for running another command will be there. And generally, we will before running, what we will do is we will make it as an archival. Archival means we will try to. There will be multiple Java files will be there. We will compress them or zip them into a single file. Okay, so in order to run, then after that we will run the Java class. So what I am planning to say here is, once you start writing the program, it's not only enough, you have to do some certain steps. If you don't remember the steps, that's fine. The steps might be compiling, archiving, and then running. So these are the steps you have to, for every step you have to use some command. Here you have to use javac. Here you have to use jar command. Here you have to use Java command. All these are individual commands. So all these steps are individual steps. So regularly every developer needs to follow all these steps. To avoid all these manual steps, we have something called IDE, stands for Integrated Development Environment. That is where your IDE comes into the picture. What it will do, it will perform all the steps with a few mouse clicks. You no need to run every time a command to perform compiling, to perform archival, to perform run. So everything can be done in a few mouse clicks. So that is where you have IDE for every programming language. So in the same way, so the example ID is, if you all know, it will be Eclipse, my Eclipse, WAD, something like that. There will be different IDs available. And here, after that, so when you come to Mulesoft, in the Mulesoft also, it will use one IDE. Just I introduced what is an IDE. That's why I have discussed this. Right? In Mulesoft, we'll also need an IDE. That IDE is called Anypoint Studio. What happened? Anypoint Studio. Its latest version is 7.12.1. If you want to run any Mulesoft application, you need an IDE. Okay. So what is the first thing we have to do? We have to download and then set up the IDE. The next step is, give me a second. The next step is, we have to download and then set up the IDE. The next step is, give me a second. 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 Give me a second Yeah, I'm back. So what are we discussing? We are discussing about Mulesoft. In Mulesoft, if you want to write anything, you need an IDE. That IDE is called Anypoint Studio. The current version is 7.12.1. What we have to do, we have to download, set up, and run. Are you guys hear me?
Yeah.
And then we have to create first example, and then we have to run the first example. This is what we have to learn today. So any point. So Anypoint Studio 7.12.1, from where we will download this. So what is this Anypoint Studio? The Anypoint Studio is based on Eclipse. What is Eclipse? I said it's an IDE. So the Java based IDE they have taken, and then they started using. So there are some features of it. At present you don't know it, but when we keep on moving and learning the example, you will understand what I have written points here. So this will be helpful when you are revising your content. So next one, how to download. So this is the location for downloading your studio. This is the location to download your studio. So go to this URL. Now, this is the documentation of your Mulesoft product. So mulesoft.com, docs.mulesoft.com. This is the URL everyone needs to keep in hand. And now download and install your studio. How do you download? So just follow the instructions. It says choose the operating system. Yes, my operating system is Windows. And it has provided you the steps. First, to download the studio, go to this download site. And then you will get a zip file and then extract it in one of the folders. So go and download here. So select the operating system, say I agree, and then click on download. Click on download. So you will download a zip file. So already I have this download available. Let me go to, where is it? See my software. I have a studio downloaded version available. You will get this kind of download. So what you have to do, this will be a zip file, compressed file. You need a zipping software, either 7-zip or WinZip. So what you have to do, you have to open that particular archive. You will have Anypoint Studio folder available. So you have to extract this into which location? The current location where you want to keep. So keep your studio under See My Softwares. Those who are very, very new to IT, just to do follow steps what I am following. If you are comfortable enough, or if you know what are you doing, then it's fine. You can keep in any location, but preferably keep under See My Softwares. So extract this, it will get copied into your location. And then just, as you are learning it, you may face, you may have to use multiple versions in future. So after that, the studio name, just rename it to your current version number 7.12. So now your studio is ready. So in the studio, when you open, there is an anypointstudio.exe, which which is an executable file. Fine. Inside this, so when we want to open a studio, what studio will ask you is, hey, studio, what is the studio purpose? Studio purpose is to create the projects. So inside studio, it will ask us, when you're going to create the project, what is the location I should store? So create a folder called workspace in your location, and then in this location, provide that particular location. So it will create some temporary files to start it. So whatever the temporary files needed to run your studio, this will use that this location to store these files. And then once this is done, it should come up with some kind of other window. So this is called your studio. So in the studio, we will see different windows. Every small sized window. This window is called view. The purpose of view is to show us something. So this is one view. This outline is one view, and if there is a next tab to that, it is another view. MUnit errors is another view. Click on this. When you get this pop-up, click on continue to studio, and then MUnit coverage is one view. Like this, there are individual views. So first one, what we are planning to do, we have to create a Mule project. How do you create? File, new, Mule project. This is option 1. You will get an wizard here, or toolbar, new, Mule project. So provide the name of the first project. I'll start with the first alphabet character. Every project starts with alphabet character. So it is first example. I'm giving the project name. And where is this project is storing? This project is storing into the location that I have given at the starting point of loading the studio. So in this is your batch name. I'll maintain all the contents under this batch folder. Under that, there is a workspace. So under this workspace, it is storing. This is my location for your batch. I'll maintain your attendance. I'll maintain your video, download a video and to upload into YouTube. And this is my workspace. And this is my README file, whatever the content I'll write. So in the same way, there is a workspace created. Under that, a project is I'm going to create. Click on finish. What it will do? It will create a project. Once it's created a project, where does it will be displayed? It will be displayed in this particular view called Package Explorer. So the view Package Explorer is going to help you to display your projects. Show your projects. It's taking some time. Let it take. Initially, for first 1-2 projects or first one project, it will take some time to load or download the required things. Is everyone able to follow?
Yeah.
Give some time. Previously, it used to work better. Why this taskbar settings is showing? It is a high CPU usage, 98%. Oh, my McAfee is scanning this. Complete studio enter, not responding. Yeah. Now it was good. So now see what you have created, a project. So your project explorer is package explorer is showing that whatever the projects are available. Inside project, there will be files. How do you see the content inside the file? If you open the file will be opened here. This is called canvas. This is called canvas. What is this file? This file is called mule configuration file. What is this file? This file is called mule configuration file. So when you are writing, when you are learning C and CPP, what kind of files you will create, where you will write your code? You will write your code in .c or .cpp. Where do you, how do you write the how do you write your Java classes? You will write your Java classes. So that is .java files. And then inside Mule, Mule is not a programming language. Mule is a drag and drop based thing. So inside Mule, whatever we will create, that is called a Mule configuration file. What is called? Mule configuration file. So every configuration file is in .xml file. Okay, and then when you write C and CPP, inside C and CPP files, what you will write? You will write something called functions. And inside Java, what we will write? We will write something called methods. In the same way, here in the inside Mule configuration file, we will write something called flows. Understand? You have a project. Project will have. You have a project. Project will have Mule configuration files. Mule configuration files will have the flows. So now, how to create Mule configuration or how to write a code? So how to write, how to develop the code here. So when we are learning about Mulesoft, or when we started the discussion, we discussed it like Mulesoft is a drag and drop based. So now I have MS Paint. So hope all of you have used MS Paint. If I want to draw a circle, how should I draw a circle here? How
Click
should
the
I draw a
circle.
circle? We will drag and
Yeah.
drop. So we have to have a tool by something like tools here. In this, I'll choose a tool and then I'll drag drop. If I want a square, I'll do a square. If I want some kind of triangle, I do a triangle. So there are tools available. I'll drag it drop. So it's like paint. Whatever you want, you can paint here. The place is called canvas. This is called canvas. In the same way, in your studio, this place, whatever the file is opening, this is called canvas. This is called canvas. So here, your Mule configuration file contains 3 different tabs at the bottom. So we'll start dealing with the first tab. Suppose by mistake, if you went to different tab, you come to the first tab. So the name, it's an empty, it's saying that to get started, drag an operation or scope from the palette. So what kind of first application we will create? We will create a first application. What it should do is we will send a request from the browser and then browser should respond back. So if you want to send any request from the browser need an URL. URL will be divided into 3 parts. Protocol, what kind of protocol you are using. From browser, you have to use, in the internet, you have to use HTTP or HTTPS, right? And another one is after that, after URL, the separation is colon and 2 slashes. And next to that is your host name and then port number. Host name. So to which host I have to connect? Where is my application running? So every internet, everything has a host name. If you are running in your local machine, you will have the host name as localhost, and there will be port. So port number by default, Mule uses 8081. But here, by where is port number in this URL? So there will be default ports for protocols for HTTP. it is an 80 port. For HTTP, it is an 80 port. That's why it's not displayed. HTTPS, it is a 443 port. It is an 443 port. That's why they are not displaying. So even if you open something like google.com, if you directly give, you will reach the google.com, right? If you want, if you google.com http://google.com :80 will also take you to the same site. So this is not a mandatory. If it is a default port, it's not mandatory. If it is the other than the default port, you have to mention the port. And then in the meet.google.com, I'm not only the person who is conducting these meetings, right? There will be n number of persons conducting the meeting. How you are joining my meet? My meet has an IDE, or my meet has my own path. So in the same way, to touch my application, there will be a path. So we have to configure an application which listens the request for this configuration. So when I form an URL with this http:// where is my application will run in my local machine, and then port 8081, and then in that hi is my application path to reach. This is the location I have to give. Now here, how do you start your Mule application? So when you are sending any request from the browser, it will be a HTTP protocol. So when you are sending a request from the browser, so this is browser, there should be in your application or server listens to it. So you have to start an application which should listens to this particular request. So here you should see something called listener. So drag drop this particular listener. So when you drag drop, just you have to drag drop. It will automatically create. So listener, what it will do, it will listen. So where you are expecting your applications to listen, my application to listen, and so and so. So configure the values to this listener. Click on the listener, and then configurations. Click on this drop down and see, do we have any existing configurations? No, it's asking to create a new configuration. So make sure it is pointing only create a new configuration, and then click on plus button. Then it will ask you, what is the protocol you want me to listen? HTTP. What is the host name you want me to listen? You can choose any one of this, both looks the same. And then what is my port number? So by default, all these three values will be automatically populated. Protocol, host name. So this will have 000 or localhost or 127.0.0.1. Right? So all these points to the same location. So every person may have one or the other name, right? So in the same way, we have this. So now this is what is configured, this connection. So what happened? Yeah, it's done. Might be my this one antivirus is blocking it. Okay. So now you have configured. What you have configured? In the connector configuration, you have configured first three values. Under that, this particular listener needs a special path. What path this particular listener is listening? My path is I. Right? Now what this listener will do? This listener will accept the request sent from the browser with this particular URL. Now what is the next step? Next step is it should return me a message in the browser saying that, hi all, welcome to Mulesoft. Hi all, welcome to Mulesoft. So in order to send the message, we have to use something called set payload. So where you have to do, just click on this, and then next to listener in the process section, you have to just drop it, click it, and then drop it. That's it. So do one time. So set payload, what you want to set? I want to send a simple message. I don't want to do any calculations. So by default, set payload will allow you to do the calculations, that is f of x functions. You can uncheck this and then write your own message that you want to send. You can write any of the message here. You can write any of the message. Hi all, welcome to Mulesoft. Right now, this is ready. So now, once any request is reached our application, we have to know how the request is, whether the request is reached or not. It's like if I want to know whether a request is received or not. So once a request is received, I want to do a entry in my logs. It's something like when you are visiting to any school or any private office, what they will do when any visitor comes, what they will do, they will take a sign in a register. It is also the same thing. When any request comes here, I want to just drop a message saying that request received and then processed. When application is running, it will print this message. Then with that message, we can understand, okay, there is some request received and it get processed successfully. So just I am just to easily identify this message in a big logs, I am just adding some kind of special characters at the starting and the ending. Now my application design is completed. So now can I directly send this request from the browser to my application now? I send this request like this, will my application will respond back?
No.
It will not respond back because it is not running. What we have to do, if an application is to respond or work, we have to run the application. Now how to run the application? Right click anywhere and select the first option, run project, and then it shows the project name. So now project is running. So now if we come back to other views, we discussed about package explorer, we discussed about the canvas. So we discussed about there will be tools available. With the help of tools, I'm dragging dropping. In the same way in the Mule, if you want to do drag and drop, you need the tools. That tools are available in the Mule palette. In the Mule, they are called components or event processors. So once you drag drop any event processor, if you want to configure the values, there will be Mule properties tab. This tab will given a name. When you select any of the component, it will show the properties of this particular component along with that component name. Okay, along with component name. Fine. So now after that, the other one is console. What is this console? When you run your application, how do you know whether application is run properly or not? So what it will do when you run, what it will do, general steps, it will do compiling, archival, and running. All these steps it will do. How do we know if there is any error comes in any of the steps? So that steps will be displayed over here in the console view. Okay, so when you run an example, you have to wait until you see a message called application deployed successfully. Why it's taking this much time? Ideally, it should not take. Now see, At the end, once your application is successfully deployed, you would see a message, something like this: application deployed. Suppose if there is any error happened, so go back to the listener. So listener has already had a connector. Suppose you didn't give any a path, and then you saved it, and then again try to run your application. See, it's already popping out. There are some errors in the application. So now again run your application. If there is any error in your application, it will show you the errors as well. It should come up in a few seconds. McAfee, I need to do something with the McAfee. Maybe it's got updated and giving an issue. See now, what I did, I intentionally removed it, and it says that it is failed. Your first example is failed. The reason is so and so. So if you want to know the reason, you have to scroll up and see. I'll explain this how to check this in the next sessions. But if you know something about it, just go up and then try to see. So they're saying that path must appear in the element HTTP listener. It's clearly saying go to the listener. Even the listener itself is showing some red color, mark here at the top. So now what I'll do, I'll say I'll give the path. So I'm not leaving it. So after giving it, click outside. Now see, this red color mark has gone. Now save it and then stop the existing application and run it again. And run it again. Wait for your application to show is successfully deployed. Now what we have to do, we will already framed an URL, copy that particular URL and then try to send the request. Enter. Now you can see, hi all, welcome to Mulesoft. How do you know this is served by your application? So go back to your application and in the loggers, this is the console. This is called log messages. This here, it will print you the message. What is the log? We have message log, request received, and then processed. So this is how we will run our first example. So after this, what we will have in the slides, we'll have AnyPoint Studio, how to download and install, And then Anypoint Studio Anatomy, we'll have Package Explorer, Canvas, Mule Palette, Console, and then Mule Property Views we have discussed. And first application development and testing, there is an first application development and testing. There is an URL with the step-by-step to practice. So you can go here and then follow this particular URL steps to practice your first example. So here, this one is first example, and this one is studio download, right? These are the two URLs. You guys can save it and then use it for the practice purpose. And then the next one after these two things. So what is a Mule application? What's a Mule application? What is a Java application? What is a C application? If it contains C files, if it contains Java files, these are called respective applications. In the same way in Mule, if you have Mule configuration files, a Mule application is a combination of one or more Mule configuration files. And inside each Mule configuration file, what we will have? We will have a flow. So every flow will contain a sequence of components. So when you see this is your Mule application, inside that this is a Mule configuration file. Inside Mule configuration file, I have a flow. Inside a flow, we will have the components. So Mule application, what it will do, it will receive the requests. So terminology, we will call it as an event, but time being you can treat it like a request. It will receive the request, process them, and route them to the other endpoints. So what is the overall picture of the Mule? Mule is an integration tool. It will receive a request from one system and then process it and sends the request to the other systems. And then Mule application accepts and processes a Mule event through a series of Mule event processors plugged together inside a flow. It's the same thing. So this is a flow. These are the series of components connected with each other. It will receive a request, and your request is processed through these events inside a flow. So what is a Mule event source? So if you treat like your flow is like a train, every train at the starting point of the train, what we will have? We will have an engine. Engine is responsible for starting the train and then moving it. In the same way, your event source is responsible for receiving the request from external world like browser and then processing it. So what kind of, after receiving the request, what it will do? It will transform, filter, enrich. So it will do some processing in a single line. You can think like it will do some processing and response back. So in a Mule flow, what we will have? We will have an event source. So I will talk about flow separately, but just high level, you will have an event source, which is the one responsible for accepting the request. We will have event processors, and then we will have error handling as well. So in high level, you will have event source, event processors, and then you will have error handling as well. And then every Mule application basically contains one or more Mule flows. A flow starts event when it is received by an event source, and then it will process it. So high level, we'll have some information about your Mule flows. So every flow that you do create, actually, these points, this whatever you are drag and dropping, this will be a backend code will be generated. That backend code is an XML code is generated. This is how actually your code is. But when you drag and drop from the graphical view in the backend, there is an XML generated. You can see that XML by moving to the message flow to the configuration XML. What is it? Message flow to the configuration XML. And then Mule application building blocks. How do you build your Mule application? With the help of the components. Where are the components? The components are available in the Mule palette. So these components are grouped together based on its functionality. All common components are available under the core. So components are called event processors, or you can treat like components as of now as it's a first example. So all common components are grouped together and are given a name to the group called core. So the group is called a module here. And then all HTTP related, if you want to receive a request, if you want to send a request, right? So then you'll have different components here. That is called HTTP module, and then socket module. In the same way, tomorrow, if you want to read and write a file, so you need separate modules for the file. So at the top of your Mule palette, there is add modules. When you click this, it will show you the featured modules. So you can use any of the module. To add this module to the project, just drag drop this to your blue section. Even in the blue section, also it will show the message saying that when you click on add modules, first click on add modules, it will show you the featured modules. If you want to add a module, drag and drop here to add to the project. Click on this to add to the project. Now see, your file module got added. If you want, you can remove the module as well. You can add or remove the modules whenever you need with the help of add modules. So Mule application building blocks. So these are all the building blocks, and then these are separated into categories: core, components, modules, and connectors. By default, projects include HTTP and socket modules. Can add additional modules with the help of this. That's all for the first example session. What you have to do is you have to practice the first example and continue our discussion in the next session. So do practice the first example. You have the links over here for the first example. Copy them and then complete the practice. So tomorrow we will discuss about debugging a Mule application and how the request is received, how it is processed, which event processor is doing what. So that things we will discuss in the tomorrow session. Fine.
Yeah, fine.
So anyone has any questions here? If you are feeling like you are not able to understand, you are not able to follow, just use raise hand button or the chat option, so I can help you out with your questions. Or else you can stay till end of the session. At the end of the session, I will try to clear your doubts, or at the beginning of the session, we can discuss any doubts on the previous session. So what you have to do before that, you have to just go through the video or go through the PPTs that I shared. Usually we'll share with once the batch is finalized, and you have to practice the example. Then we will discuss on the doubts. Okay. That's all from my side. If you don't have any questions, feel free to drop off. We will continue in tomorrow's session. Shrikant.
Hello, sir. Good morning, sir.
Yes, Shrikant.
Is it audible, sir?
Yes, it's audible.
Sir, what you said regarding to the flows, it is act like as functions or methods. So in the functions, according to my view, we are giving the some of the parameters. So in the flows, we are giving the parameters, or else here also we are drag and drop that one, sir.
I'm not exactly saying how that works. My intention of saying it as a function is inside Java file, what you will write, how do you construct a Java class or C application? We'll create a file. Inside that we will write everything as kind of functions. Right?
Okay, sir.
Inside
Right,
Java
sir.
class, we will write the methods. Without methods, we don't have anything inside Java class, right? Our
Right, sir,
functionality will be written in the methods. I'm comparing in similar way. Here our functionality will be written in the flows.
Okay.
It's not
Sir,
like,
can-
you know, flow, not like how it works. This work is different and that work is different. But overall, a project will contain said, a file. Inside file, we will have some kind of components. Here it is a flow. There it was a function, and in Java it was a method.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Sir, one more doubt, sir.
Yeah, please.
So ID means integrated development environment, sir. I know the Eclipse and my Eclipse, sir. WAD, you said WAD, sir.
That's some
So
other tool, something similar to that.
okay, okay, sir. Thank
Just
you, sir.
I want to give. I mean, if I introduce in any point studio, you might have some questions. What is the studio and all? So why we have an IDE? IDE we have to eliminate the redundant tasks like
Sir,
compiling, archival, running. So all these steps will be done with the help of IDE in a single click, few mouse clicks. Similar IDEs are Eclipse, MyEclipse, Vasad or RAD. Some names are there, right? Like that. Just I have given a name. So in the Mulesoft, we will use similar kind of stuff called this one, Anypoint Studio. Just to make it, because most of the people have some idea on this. At least in nowadays, in for all technologies or all groups, people are learning at least C or Java in high level. So just for that purpose, I am giving an idea.
right, sir. Sir, can you give some addition? Can you explain once again about listener, sir, in simple line?
In simple line, you are asking a question, right? In meeting from other side. So who is listening your question?
Hello, sir. Is the question is clear for you, sir?
Yeah, I understand your question. So I am asking you again another question.
Sir.
So suppose here I am started giving the lesson.
Right, sir.
So on the other side, someone is listening, right?
Yeah, sir. For example, me, sir.
Yeah. So suppose I am asking you a question. If I want to get the answer, what it needs to be done, you have to listen to the question and you have to provide me the answer. Right?
Sir.
In some particular one in communication, if one guy is posing a question, other side guy needs to listen it and respond back with the answer. So listener is something like a request is generating from the browser, right? So here you are creating a request, localhost 8081 hi. How is you are getting response back? Some guy is continuously listening on this so and so address. And then whenever he receives a request, he is responding back. Right? So who is listening that request? That is your HTTP listener. Your application, new application is running and your listener is listening on that particular address. When you send a request from the browser, it will accept it and then process it and send back. Okay. Just do a quick practice, and once you are comfortable with 1 or 2 times of the practice, then by default you will automatically understand this. Okay. Srinivas?
Sir, thank you, sir. Srikanth.
Yeah, sorry, Srikanth.
Yeah.
Sir,
thank you,
Bashir.
sir.
Yeah, are you done, Srikanth?
Yeah, sir. Yeah, sir.
Yeah. Anyone? Bashir?
Just I want to know what are the things we are covering as a part of this training. I mean, course details. Just I want to know.
Some time back. Didn't I send you?
No, sir.
So this is general message I will send.
Got it, sir. Sure.
So here these are the things we will provide.
Okay.
This one is changed for this batch.
Mm-hmm.
These are the demo videos and whole student reviews, and this is the course content. So This is what we are covering in this session.
Got it, sir. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here you will have everything that is needed for to work in a Mulesoft development project.
Yeah, oh, I have one doubt. Are we completing? I mean, doing Git and Jenkins? Are we covering this?
Yeah, we'll cover that, but in high level we will cover, not like in DevOps point of view.
Okay,
Git
okay.
we
Whatever
use
we require as a developer.
as a developer.
Got it.
Git will
Thank
be
you.
used. Git will
Mhm,
be used. We will have Maven and Git in detail session, and
mhm.
Jenkins just we will show you, how to link Maven and Git and run a job.
Mhm. Got it, sir. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other question from anyone? Any other questions, Asad?
Yeah, Kishore, I'm Ram. I have
Okay.
one doubt.
Yes, Ram, please.
I have listener and I have and one more request I have created as event process. So in the request I have given the URL of the one of the
Hmm.
source. So to hit the listener, do I need to give the local host URL or that request URL? In the request I have given one URL.
Hmm.
So which URL I have to give to get that information from the source? Suppose if I have a, thousand user details in the request URL, so how do how can I get that?
So your question is, first question, now there are two questions. Question
yeah,
number one, you have flow something like this.
yes,
If I want to send a request for this particular flow,
yeah,
right, which URL I have to give? So what
yeah.
do you think, which URL we have to give?
Because listener is listening in the server side, right? So
Hmm.
and but you want to get the information from the source, so I need to give the source URL. I'm thinking.
Okay. You are here. Might we think you are sending request from browser
Yeah,
and you have a different system, right?
yes.
And you have Mulesoft to bridge. To whom you are sending the request first?
First, I'll send it to source. Sorry, Mulesoft.
So from where you will send the request? You will send the request from source to where? Mule.
Mule.
How
Yeah.
Mule will receive? In your example, listener. So what URL you will give? Listener URL. Once you have given that, your Mule will have the components, whatever the components it might be, starts executing. In which one of the component will go and connect to your target system.
Okay.
It's a simple thing. So to whom you want to call? Suppose if you want to, we have 10, 5, 6 different participants here. If you want to call the participants, you have to call them with a specific name. If you want to call Mule, you have to call the Mule, right? How Mule is listening with the help of listener. So this URL you will give. So from here, if you want to call the target, so you are calling the target with the target URL. So here you will give the target URL, and from here you will call the sources. From source you will call the Mule. Either you can treat like the source as a browser. Now
Okay.
here you are sending request to the Mule. Mule is doing some processing. In between, it will go to some other system and get the data, and it will do polishing the data. And then once the processing is done, it will respond back the same data back to your browser. We'll see all these kinds of example when we move further. We'll send a request from the browser, and then we will try to read a file, contents of the file, and then we will transform them into some other format, and then we will respond back the content to the browser.
Okay, sure. But in our project, we are giving that target URL in the Postman. So
that is something like if you want to know how this target is working,
okay,
right? See, it's something like when you are integrating couple of systems, as I told you yesterday, how the integrations can happen with the help of file, with the help of database and all, right? So
Yeah.
before we'll talk all this in when we are discussing the REST services. Before you go and start from this particular mule, before you go and start calling this particular guy, right?
Okay.
So you have to know this guy is working or not. Suppose you have already built an example, everything is done, and somehow this program is not working.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Somehow you are seeing that you are not getting the data from this particular system. So you don't know whether it is an error in your program or whether it is an error from the target system. So what we will do before we go and start anything, first we will try to connect to this particular system from Postman and then see this guy is responding properly or not. Yes, this is responding. Then the same kind of invoking we will do from our code from here. And then we will complete our example. So if this guy is working, if this guy is working fine, but this guy is not, then you have to cross check your code why it is not working. Or suppose your code is working, but this guy is not working, then you have to raise a concern with this respective team member saying that your system is not responding.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
To understand the theme of it, so when we move further, you will slowly understand the things.
Yeah. Thank you, Kishore. I have understood that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Sri Sai, Kiran, Ram, Hussein, Bashir, Asad. If you don't have any questions, feel free to drop off. We will connect tomorrow. Any questions, Asad?
No questions. Yeah.
So do